This month, our 12 powers, power of the month is will. It's the silver sign. I choose my good based on spiritual understanding. So I mentioned that I was at the beach for the last couple weeks. This is a very long-standing tradition in my family. This is the 32nd year that Heather and I have gone to the same beach each time. We got married on this beach in 1996. That's how far back this tradition goes. Yeah. My beard used to be red. My hair was just blonde without the platinum blonde on the sides that it's getting now. But it's a wonderful time for us to kind of go back to a familiar place and have a time of rest and relaxation and reset. And it's a very easy and slow life, which is nice. There's not a whole lot to do. And it's a time where we can kind of unwind and just let each day unfold as it seems like it wants to unfold. Now, years ago, I used to surf. I'll tell you why I say used to now. I used to surf in my younger days, and I would surf on this vacation. And I had forgotten this until I was sitting on the beach one day, just sitting under the umbrella in a chair, drinking some either coffee or water, looking around, kind of alternate, get in the water, rest, have something to eat, take a walk down the beach, sit in the chair some more. And I can do this for some amount of time, at least a couple hours. Heather could do it all day, every day. If we had a tent down there, she'd sleep down there. She'd be perfectly fine. Just give her some books and some food and water, and she would never want to leave. But in the past, I remember that I used to go down there with my surfboard. I would get in the water and surf, and immediately when I got out, I would go back to the house and shower and change and get dry again. I wanted nothing to do with sitting around on the beach. It did not work for me at all. I didn't like being in wet clothes, was a big part of it. And so my motivation when I got out of the water, not only was I tired, but I want to get out of these wet clothes. So nowadays, I traded my surfboards for boogie boards because it's easier. I'll tell you, surfing is work. And it is not an easy thing to do. And there was a professional surfer that said surfing a wave is easy. Catching a wave, that's a whole other thing. And all of the work is in catching the wave. Then of course, every time you stand up, you fall down, right? I'm not standing on a surfboard now. Therefore, every time I got on one, I got off of it somehow or other. Maybe by choice, maybe I lost my balance one way or the other. But as I sat on the beach in wet clothes, just having gotten out from boogie boarding, sort of going on rotation, sort of like boogie board and then chill out for a while, drink some water, maybe eat a sandwich, maybe take a walk down to the pier and back, sit around for a while, look around, see what's going on, get back in the water, repeat. You could say wash, rinse, repeat. And it hit me. I never did this before. Something has changed. Something has changed. We were talking about this in our 9:30 meditation group here this morning. It seems like things contain their own instructions for us, right? If I'm uncomfortable, what do I want to make it stop? Right? If I'm hungry, I want to eat. If I'm afraid, I want to avoid whatever it is I'm afraid of. If someone is disappointed, I might be motivated to try and fix it, make it better for them. If I want something, I want to get it. If something needs doing, do it now. Then I asked, do I have to obey every impulse? Does that have to be that way? And one thing I realized, I've known this about myself for a while, I'm going to call it a superpower and own it. I have the superpower of urgency. Now, urgency is that let's get this done, let's do it now kind of power. And it can be a gift, right? It can show up as initiative. It can show up as energy to do a thing whose time has come. It can show up as decisiveness. It can show up as the ability to take action when action needs to be taken. It can also show up as rushing when rushing doesn't need to happen. It can show up as interrupting, as a force of reacting. So you could ask, is urgency a strength or a weakness? And I think that perhaps that's the wrong question. And I ask instead, what is making the decision about this application or that? About doing this or doing that? About how I respond to the situation, this way or that way? Wet clothes say, go home now. Urgency says, do it now. Fear says, don't risk it. Anger says, lash out. Approval says, keep them happy. Habit says, what? This is the way we've always done it. Is every feeling a command? And who gets the final say? So the master teacher, it's recorded, said, let your word be yes, yes, or no, no. There's power in being able to say yes when yes is called for. And there's power in being able to say no when no is called for. Not because fear said no, and not because desire said yes, but because I chose. So I'm thinking, well, maybe that's what changed for me at the beach. Certainly the wet clothes didn't change. They were just as they were before. My preference didn't change. But what changed is the wet clothes stopped getting the final say in things. We have a name for this in the unity movement. It's called the power of will. The power of will. Not willpower. This is not forcing things. Will is the power to choose. That's why it says, I choose my good based on spiritual understanding. In a sense, will is our hand on the rudder. If our life were like a ship or a boat, there's a rudder in the back that chooses the direction. Our power of will is like our hand on that rudder. Yes, there are wind and waves and currents and conditions, but always there is the rudder. There are times when our freedom to choose is constrained. It could be because of addiction of some kind. It could be compulsion or fear or a need for approval. Or it could be old conditioning, old habits of mind kicking in. It could be based on some sense of shame that we carry or anger that we have. These can make choosing extraordinarily difficult, right? Even in anything that we might call an addiction, one, I think, good working definition of addiction is we have lost the power to choose. What we do, though, in the face of such things is we recognize them. We become aware of what is going on. We name it. That helps our awareness to give something a name, not to put it in a box so much as have a handle on it, some way of characterizing it. We accept that that is what is happening. That's a lifelong lesson. In that one word, we accept. It means we stop resisting what's going on. We get help as needed, we heal, and we release whatever it is. In doing so, we recover our power to choose where we had lost it. The rudder, in a sense, on our boat may be hard to move, but we don't throw it away because it's hard to move. The first thing we do, I mentioned, is we notice what is going on. This is where our contemplative practice is essential and extraordinarily powerful. Because a contemplative practice, like a simple mindfulness meditation, think of a breath awareness mindfulness meditation, probably the simplest contemplative practice I can think of, where you literally just sit in a relaxed manner, bring your awareness to your breath, notice what it feels like to breathe, and then if your mind wanders, when you realize that your mind has wandered, you simply return your awareness to your breath, and that's it. You don't get a -1 for drifting away, you don't get a +1 for returning, all that's irrelevant. You put your awareness on your breath. If you noticed it has strayed, you bring it back, period, to end. We notice what is happening to us. We notice that our mind has drifted. Oh, there it goes again. Yep. It kind of does that, doesn't it? That's all right. But what do? I make the decision to bring it back to my breath. I'm strengthening my power to choose every single time that I do that. It's been said that between stimulus and response, there lies a space. That is where will lives, in that space, that silence. It's almost imperceptible. In times when we simply react to what is happening, we don't see that space at all. It doesn't even, the concept of a choice doesn't even exist for us. So we take the practice of making space, right? We don't immediately obey or eliminate whatever it is that arises. We choose differently than simply reacting. And recognize that fear can be present and urgency can be present, right? And wet clothes can be present, and that's all right. What I do when I notice that is I turn within, I become still and turn within. Again, this is where our meditation practice, that kind of silent prayer practice that we do, this is how we can begin to apply it off the cushion, if you will, in our day-to-day lives. We become still and we listen, we notice what is going on in me. Oh, I feel really, really strongly like I need to get out of these wet clothes. Or I feel really, really strongly I need to get out of this situation. And listen. If you can remain in that spot momentarily. Now, of course, if you are in real danger, don't do this. If you're driving down the highway and someone pulls in front of you and you're like, oh, I'm about to die, what should I do? No, just go ahead and hit the brakes, and steer away. I'm talking about in places where really there is no actual danger. Your mind will tell you better do this right now. But there is no physical danger present. That's what I'm talking about. So we notice and we listen. What is going on in me? And we ask of that divine wisdom that dwells within us. We ask, what is mine to choose? And we don't force the answer. This practice includes allowing space for things to unfold, allowing for time to pass. Allowing that divine wisdom to rise up in us so that we will recognize it as such. And we allow the answer to that question to arise from the silence within us. And this is a practice. This takes practice. And sometimes you'll feel like, well, nothing is arising. I've recognized what's happening. I've chosen to pause. I turn within. I notice my breath. I ask of the Spirit, what is mine to do? And I feel like I get no response at all. Well, that response is called nothing. So what do? Nothing. Check that out. Sit with that for a while and see what happens. So we choose our response. We put our hand back on the rudder of our life each and every time that we do that. We choose from spiritual understanding, as the banner says. Choice isn't simply whatever I want. It is choosing our good based on our spiritual understanding, our understanding of the presence of the Spirit within us as an inexhaustible resource, as the source of all wisdom, all abundance of everything. We recognize the Spirit within is the source of life with a capital L. And we turn within and check in within and listen for what arises. We ask ourselves, what do I know? What comes to my mind? What awareness arises within me when I allow space for that, say it's a fear, whatever that fear is, to begin to become quiet? What choice arises in me when I'm inquiring within about something that I want to do or be or have? What moves toward wholeness, we might ask? Or again, as Nikki Harris shared, what's the stronger choice? Very much what we're talking about when she advised using that question. Now that was in the context of making decisions as an artist, as a singer. What is the stronger choice? But within that, you can see, if I'm going to ask that question, I have to notice what's going on, pause, be open to receive some instinct, insight, some direction, and then make a decision and then move ahead and see how it goes. What direction is mine to choose? In the ancient Hebrew wisdom, I read this: I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Choose life. We have a choice. So, wet clothes can still be wet. Notice I haven't said any magic words that made wet clothes instantly dry. That's not it. Urgency can still arise. Fear can still arise. Anger can appear. Other people's expectations of us can appear. But they don't get a hand on the rudder. We notice, we make space, we remember who we are, and we choose from that stillness within. We put our hand back on the rudder. That is the power of will that we have. So I ask you, moving forward, this is one of those questions that doesn't need an answer. Right? It needs awareness, it needs an observation, it needs to be carried as an open question, right? Because what do we say? Why ruin a perfectly good question with an answer? Whose hand is on the rudder in your life? Whose hand? So here's our closing affirmation for today. I'll read it, we can read it together. It says, I have the power to choose my direction with wisdom, courage, and love. Say that with me. I have the power to choose my direction with wisdom, courage, and love.